teamwork. And this is one of the airy antidotes to the human factor. We'll find this in our book, and that it kind of overrules everything here. So we're going to go ahead, as we've done before, and assemble our group. We're going to agree to ride together, decide, listen to all voices, challenge assumptions, and respect vetoes. This is sort of our rules of engagement here. We've talked about whether everybody's on the same page. Do we have a shared mental model of how we want the day to go? So we've got our group. We'll go through our rules of engagement. Vetoes. One thing that's used in Canada in some of the guide operations, runs there and the heliops are divided into green and red. To make a run red, there's only one person who needs to say, I don't really like this. It doesn't feel right to me. There's always a guides meeting in the morning, and that's when everybody's expected to give an opinion. That person says, I don't like this. They don't get into a big knockdown battle about, oh, come on, man. It's good. I skied it yesterday. It was good. Whoa, what's wrong with you? You're too conservative. They just say, okay, no, David doesn't feel good about it. We're not going to do it. Let's move on. To change a run from red to green, everybody has to be on board. If one person says, I still don't think we should open that run, okay, we'll respect that veto. Let's move on. They have the advantage that no, in a heliop, you've got a lot of options. But I think we can learn that they'll go ahead and respect those vetoes. No, we all want to go out there and do things. It doesn't have to just be climbing Everest in a long conga line here. No, for better or for worse, all of us are type A personalities. No, we've got things we want to do. But we want to be rational about it. We don't want to go ahead and sacrifice everything to a goal. I knew Scott Fisher before he died on Everest. One of the problems in that 96 Everest debacle was simply that people had a plan, they had turnaround times, but they went ahead and ignored it. There's problems we can avoid just with our turnaround times on our day skiing. We can avoid our wet loose problem. We can potentially avoid our wet slag problem. We can potentially avoid our cornice fall problem. So all those are good reasons to stick to our turnaround time. Yes, I will change turnaround times, but I want to have a good reason for it, other than just, well, I haven't climbed this peak. I really want to get to the top of it. We keep going. We may also just miss the best skiing, the best riding. Goal in the spring is to be up on top of something and done and coming down round about 11 to 12 o'clock, back down at the vehicle at 2 o'clock, having a beer or whatever and done. We hit the best skiing, we avoid the problem. It means getting up early, but that's part of the game. Now, we talked about uncertainty, where we don't know things, and we have plenty of sources for that. Some of our decisions are easy. When our danger rating is low, no, it's fairly easy. When it's high, oh man, I'm not going out there. It's when it's moderate and considerable that it's hard. And considerable is when most avalanche accidents happen. No, and we've got to keep that in mind. Yes, the decisions are hard. We've still got to go ahead and make them. No, we can manage our uncertainty by assessing the consequences. Can we get more information? Can we change our terrain choice? Can we increase our margin of safety there? We can limit our avalanche exposure. Over here is our avalanche terrain exposure, simple, challenging, complex. The more confidence we have, the more we can step it out. Now, we might step it out cautiously. We can reduce our risk as we choose terrain with less consequence. When we have less confidence, keep it simple. And that means simple terrain. For me these days, simple works well. And we keep on coming back to our graphic here. No, the lower the danger, the more open to us, the higher the danger, the less. Now we're asking ourselves, how much do I want to risk? What do I know? What's the quality of what I know? What's the consequence? How many of you guys are out there, after we finish up here, you're going to go back online, do a little online gambling, play online poker? No, oh, I'm sure you are, right? No, what sort of a hand are you holding? Is it this? No, or is it this? No, this is what we'd all like, but some of the time that's what we've got. No, is the risk worth the reward we might get? Do we have a good turn? Can we play a different game? Can we go somewhere else? No, let's wait for the simple hand and the obvious win. Yeah, I really want to ski today, but the avalanche danger is considerable. Maybe I should wait until tomorrow when the danger's dropped and it's back down to moderate. Now, think about how it's going to play out. What's the worst that can happen if you're wrong? No, and we want to know when to fold and walk away. No, that's one of the biggest things to learn is I can't do it today. Maybe I can do it another day. Backcountry abstinence. On this trip, we were planning to go up and ski the Skowa. We see that we've got a corner, so probably if there's a slab, it's likely to be in there. Is it really worth going up this extra 200 feet or so here to ski this when we can have a really nice run just going from the bottom here and down? So knowing when to fold, knowing when to abstain. As I've said before, what I want to do is go out and have fun with friends and enjoy being out there. And I want to be out there with people who will take care of me and know that they'll go ahead and have me take care of them. So teamwork is kind of an antidote to that human factor side of things, where we've got the stoke of the day and where we really want to get out there and do stuff. So keep all that in mind. And that's where the Airy Notebook comes in, for just being able to jot down our thoughts, a way of organizing. Debriefing. This is sort of our wrap up of the day, where we summarize, we review, and we talk about how we can improve. Down here, we've got debrief. When we went out in the morning, we predicted what we were going to see. We observed when we were out there. At the end of the day, we can compare what we found and how it, and whether we did a good job of predicting the beginning of the day. But why do we want to do this? It might sound like a pain. No, something, I just want to get a beer, I'm done. But over the beer, we can make an assessment of how the day went, and we want to be able to intentionally build expertise rather than haphazardly gain it. It's been defined that there's two different learning environments, what's called a kind learning environment and a wicked learning environment. One of the numbers that's been used for expertise, and I said we'd come back to this later, is 10,000 hours. That's an industry standard, 10,000 hours to achieve expertise. For the auto parts salespeople here, working 9 to 5, 260 days a year, that takes about 5 years. For a backcountry skier, if you go out and ski every weekend for the entire winter, it's going to take you 20 years to get to that 10,000 hours. And some of that time is not going to be assessed in avalanche conditions. It's going to be skiing, climbing, boarding, whatever. In a kind learning environment, I go to the auto parts store here and ask the woman for a fuel filter for a 1994 Ford 250. She gives me it, I take it home, I go to put it in, it doesn't fit. I go back down and she's looks it up again and says, sorry, I gave you the one for the 96. She learns, I learn, and there isn't a whole lot of consequence to it. Now, I'm bummed out that I've had to go to town but no, for her, no, it's just part of the job, things go wrong. That's a kind learning environment. We also have a wicked learning environment where there's harsh consequence to a mistake. In a wicked learning environment, we often don't get the feedback we need until it's too late. So the reason, no, skiing is or being in the backcountry is a wicked learning environment. We often don't know about the avalanche conditions until one occurs. And by that point, it's too late. We don't want to go out there every day and trigger an avalanche. We don't want the feedback that comes in a wicked learning environment. So by debriefing, we can gain the feedback without that harsh consequence. So we want to be honest in our debriefing. Were the conditions what we anticipated? Did we make good decisions? Could we improve? What was the weather? What changed? Did the avalanche danger change? We could compare what we found with the forecast. Did we see evidence of what the avalanche forecast talked about? If we didn't see it, does that necessarily mean it doesn't exist? Probably not. It just means we didn't find it. Were we looking hard enough? We'll also think about how what we saw today is going to increase the danger or decrease it. Now, where's the weather going? All that sort of thing there. What were our strengths and shortcomings? Where were we exposed to avalanche risk? And did we make good choices, good decisions, or did we just get lucky with stuff? Did we turn around when we said we did? Could we have turned around earlier? A lot of different things there in figuring out whether we were good or lucky. We can't make a career out of being lucky. And getting good is hard. What would we do differently next time? Whenever I'm guiding and whenever I'm working with guides, the first three things here are what I want everybody to ask when they're driving back after a trip. What went well, what didn't, what we're going to do next time. And generally, there's always something we can improve upon doing. None of us get to be that good. We'll often submit observations to the local forecast center because they rely upon quality information. It's got to be good information. No problems, bro. Really doesn't tell them anything at all. They need good stuff there. And they know who can give them good info and who can't. We've talked about the empathy gap. When we were out there. We don't want to repeat the same mistakes time after time. And we talked about how our empathy gap means that the decisions we make are conditional upon our state at the time. By taking a step back and evaluating, we can help override some of this empathy gap, and hopefully it helps us to accurately predict our future thoughts and behaviors. Reviewing accidents is a good way of gaining information without harsh feedback. We want to be careful that we don't fall into the trap of saying, oh God, those people were idiots. I'd never make that mistake. That's what we would call our blind spot bias. We want to be honest when we read accident reports and go ahead and say, no, yes, I probably could have made the same mistake. When we read the accident report, we want to go ahead and do it, as I said, honestly. And we can also store it in our memory. There's a lot of research done on firemen, particularly by a writer, Gary Klein, who studies things. And firemen tend to just store information. We talk about intuition. And according to Klein, we're actually drawing subconsciously upon past history. We've seen things. We've put that in our head and we pull it up at some point. Before a fireman rushes into a building, maybe they stop and just evaluate a little bit and something goes, well, I've sort of seen something like this before and it didn't go well. So it gives an opportunity when we read these reports to get information without the feedback that we don't want. So before skiing a slope, we can maybe ask ourselves, how would an accident report read if something went wrong? Now, would our decisions stand up to scrutiny here? Now, would other people say, well, they seem to have done a pretty good job in making decisions? Or would they say, oh, how the hell did they ever miss that? So just another way of debriefing and gathering information here. And to close it, this is a quote here from Will Durant. Will and Ariel Durant wrote a big series of books on the history of civilization. So 60 years ago, I knew everything. Now I know nothing. Education is a progressive discovery of our own ignorance. Whenever we go out in the mountains, we should be able to find something new to learn, something to add to our store of knowledge. If we don't, either we're really good, we've achieved that wisdom phase, or we're not keeping our senses open at all. So that wraps up the airy side of things there.